sorry, kiddo, I really am. You have a good soul. And I hate giving good people bad news.
I'm Tony, he's Mike, and today we wrap up the month of love with 1982's Golan-Globus, The Last American Virgin.
And now let's all get serious. One, two, three.
American Virgin. See it or be it.
Yeah. There's a bit of a story with this one, in that this was originally a film that was made and released in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It was set in the 50s, and it was called Lemon Popsicle.
Yes.
And basically, it was a huge success, and it spun off a bunch of sequels. And Golan-Globus decided they were going to break into Hollywood, and they're like, let's do that one, but let's set it in 1980s, and let's set it in Los Angeles. And
thank God, because I enjoyed the hell out of this movie.
Okay, first off, it's billed as a sex comedy. It's crude.
Oh, absolutely.
It's absolutely as crude as needs to be.
Yes. Well, number one, it is Golan-Globus.
Yes.
Number two, it's an 80s comedy.
Yes.
Three, this is a time when screwball comedies were the rage.
Yes.
And there's crude humor, tits, ass, I mean, like everything. Like there's no holes barred.
Yes, the nudity is in full effect.
Which I didn't remember it being this
salacious?
Yeah.
And here's this movie saving grace. It is an absolute crude film. Mm-hmm. No two ways about it. But it's absolutely, number one, nails the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
This is the actual movie, first time that we watched a movie about high schoolers that actually felt more documentary and less melodrama or comedy, number one. Number two, the ending of this movie is the neutron bomb of film endings.
Yes.
And we're going to get into that. But first, just to go through the plot, there are three buddies. Mm-hmm. One of them works at a crappy pizza place.
That's
one of
scary.
them is...
You ought to spend more time in school instead of cruising around with broads in my car. Then you'd learn how to read.
Then there's the overweight one.
I forgot his name.
Yeah.
You're sitting over there, do you? David's just sitting here telling me that they're easy lays. You're imagining easy lays.
I'm not imagining. Listen, Gary, Tommy's brother screws that blonde like he owns it.
And then
there's Rick.
And there's Rick.
Slick Rick.
Yes.
You know, girls, why don't you give it to him one more time? Woo! That's who's standing here today.
Rick is the lady killer.
Let's take our business elsewhere.
So we got Gary, who's your main focus of this movie.
Yes.
He sees this girl, Karen, and like instantly is smitten with this girl.
Yes.
And so he goes to the trouble of meeting her and that. And she, quite right off the bat, is like, hey, you know, you're whatever. I'm not really interested in you, because he asked for a date. And kind of
actually,
and stuff like that.
He asks her if she has a boyfriend, and she says no and smiles. And he reads that as an invitation, because it's like her first or second day of school or something.
Yeah,
like she just moved there.
But there's a second ask after that.
Yes.
And it is kind of asking for a date type of thing, but she kind of shuts that thing down.
Yeah. First he asks her if she has anything going on tonight, and if she'd like to go out with him, and she says she can't.
I wanted to ask what you were doing tonight.
I'm afraid I'm busy.
Too bad. Because I know about this really great happening party tonight.
Sorry. There's always next time. Thanks again, Gary.
And then he says, hey, can I just ask you point blank, do you have a boyfriend? And she says no.
Let me ask you something straight out. Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
Well,
thanks again, Gary.
Which at the time she didn't, because she'd literally just moved there. Yeah. But then...
later you find that
Rick,
you know, have met up and, you know, are becoming an item.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't take a lover boy very long, does it? He's on like flies to shit.
And so at that party, Gary, tries a second attempt,
He tries to muscle in, honestly, because Karen and Rick introduce Gary to
Rose.
her friend Rose, and Rose is very much like throwing herself at him.
Yeah.
Would you like to dance, Gary? Let's dance.
Rose, I don't know.
Come on, dance with me.
And Gary is just not letting it go.
No. Gary's got fucking blinders on.
Yes. Yeah, well, not only blinders, but he's got a serious case of one-itis. Like, she is the one.
Yes.
And she's all but pulled the sword from the stone. Yeah. I mean, literally. Yeah. And so that's going on. And then while all that's going on, there is the eternal quest for the three buddies to have sex and lose their virginity. Rick is first up, and he loses it like right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like Gary's mom and dad are out. They go back. They're having a party. And the funniest thing about that scene is the girls are all like, "Do you got drugs?" And he's like, "Oh, we've got uppers, we got downers, and we've got some smoke." And "Do you have cocaine?" And yeah, we got a jar full of cocaine. When they get back to the house and they're having the party, they didn't have any cocaine, but
they didn't have any drugs.
They did have some baking goods though.
They had some sweet and low.
Look, if I didn't promise them something, they would have never come, right?
Yeah, well, what are we supposed to do now? Hey, wait a second. You got any sweet and low?
Here we are, girls. Best stuff in town.
And then you take a puff like, oh yeah, it's good.
I love it.
Which is hilarious because it exposes the teenagers trying to act more adult than they actually are, but then not knowing enough to actually call bullshit. And so now they have fulfilled their obligation of showing how adult they are. Now they can move on to the sexy time. And
hang on, we're getting the woods. We're getting way deep in the weeds. So just to burn through the plot super duper quick. So anyway, Gary's pining over this Karen girl. He tries and she keeps shutting him down. Well, eventually, towards damn near the very end of the movie, Karen gets knocked up. What's his name? Rick kind of dumps her, kind of pushes her away. Gary takes this opportunity to be Captain Save-A-Ho.
I'm pregnant.
Hey, don't worry. It's gonna be all right. And don't breathe a word of this to anyone. I'm gonna take care of this, understand? I'm gonna help you.
Helps her out, and he's like, I'm gonna help you. Everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be fine. Pays for the abortion. Takes care of her. Like the very next fucking day, she's having it seems like the very next day, but it's really not.
No, it's not.
But she's having a party, and Gary shows up there all gung ho. He's got this necklace that he had engraved. He's gonna show how much he loves her. Walks into the back of the kitchen, and there's Karen
and
Rick making out. And they turn and look at poor Gary, and Gary's like, "Well, f me." Yeah. And then you see Gary driving home, just tears, just pouring down there. Now I remembered. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie, but I remembered the look for those two being more kind of scathing and kind of like ha kind of rubbing it in, but it really wasn't this time.
No,
it was kind of like, sorry. Not sorry,
And I mean, the thing is okay, Gary's incredibly sympathetic. Yeah. I mean, he's pathetic, but then he's sympathetic in that he did all these things for this girl because he had feelings for her. He doesn't really know anything about her, so he builds up this whole, what kind of person she is in his mind. And then he does all these kind things for her. He helps her out when she's in a tight spot. He sells his radio and takes money from his deceased grandma's wallet and lets her stay at his deceased grandma's house while all this is going on. Takes her to the abortion instead of going on the class ski trip. And nurses her back to health, makes her breakfast, and then he actually does flat tell her, "I'm in love with you. I've been in love with you since the first time I saw you."
I love you. I always have. Ever since I first saw you. I loved you.
And she kisses him, so she kind of green flags the whole thing. She totally does.
She kisses him, but that's as far as the physical goes. It's a kiss, and then she immediately hugs him.
Well,
effectively shutting that shit down.
Well, I was going to say.
From his point of view,
Gary thought that she was thankful.
Yes.
Yes, that she was appreciative of what he had done. So that's when he runs out and decides to buy the pendant and get it engraved and refers to her as his girlfriend and all that. But yeah, the last scene is the hammer drop on this one. Yeah. And Rick has that, ooh, sorry look. And Karen actually is making out, is very passionate. They're very into each other. And then she realizes that Gary is standing there and like her eyes get red and well up with tears and all that one. So she knows what she did.
Yeah.
She knows exactly what she did. Now, the flip side is you have the first 4/5 of this film. You know, so Rick loses his virginity to the girls that they pick up at the hangout.
Yep.
Only one. And you're looking, oh, girls, I can't stand it.
And then there's the lady that comes on to Gary while he's delivering pizzas, and then they go back for that, and she's a complete hoe. And so she has sex with Rick.
The world heavyweight champion.
All right.
And then she has sex with the heavyset kid, which I cannot remember his name. He'll throw it right there. And then when it is Gary's turn, well, her boyfriend, husband, whatever, her sailor boyfriend shows up and chases them out. So Gary has struck out on that one. And then there is the double date with Rose and Karen, and then they wind up in the ocean, literally. And then they decide, screw it, they're going to go have sex with a prostitute. They're going to find the redhead with the big boobs, and they're going to go. And even though Rick is waiting to hook up with Karen, well, he's not going to let that one go. He's going with them.
Yeah, sure thing.
And so Gary has sex with the prostitute.
They all have sex with the prostitute.
Well, they all have sex with her, but he has sex with the prostitute, and when he gets done, he's disgusted with himself, and he goes and he throws up.
Yeah.
And it's a very honest reaction to that situation, and that is not what he expected his first time to be. And then when he stops and thinks about it, he throws up, and then they all get crabs.
Crabs? Crabs, you know, like headlights.
Which there's something you don't hear about in teen movies anymore, is STDs or crabs. And so they decide they're all going to go stand in the pool and try to drown the crabs.
You sure this is going to drown them? Positive. But I thought crabs loved water. Yeah, well, not this time.
And I remember like that being, oh, well, you can cure it. You can get rid of crabs. Just go, dunk your bag in the tea.
That shit don't work.
No.
Nope. You gotta get some medication.
That's why pubic hair fell out of favor for a very long time. The razor.
That doesn't help either. You can still get crabs even if you don't have pubes. Sorry, shaving off doesn't help.
But so they had to go get medication, and the pharmacist is hilarious in that scene because they're trying to explain what happened while not explaining what happened. They don't want to say the words, "We've got crabs."
I don't see anything wrong with that.
It's not on my head.
Your balls itch.
And when he actually like nails it, I busted a gut laughing. It was so well timed and so well delivered. But it's not done in a quippy way. It's done in a I've been there, done that sort of way. Yeah. And so
I love when Gary comes home drunk after his failed attempt to try to pick up on Karen at the party, and he comes home and the family's having the party, and they're all sitting there with all these adults, and he comes and he's drunk. And there's the one friend of the family, I forgot her name.
Mrs. something or Mrs. Rutledge or something like that, I think.
I don't know. But
Hi, everybody.
Oh, my goodness, Martha. How this young man has grown.
He was like trying to come on to her. And it's fucking hilarious.
Jerry, Mrs. Roswell is asking you a question. Oh. What this young man needs is a long, cold shower.
Only if you join me, baby. Because I know what you need.
Here's the thing about this, okay? We talked about this in the last movie a little bit, that, obsessive love it's not good love.
No.
Because he is obsessed over this thing, he missed out on banging the hot Latina blonde lady. He missed out on hooking up with Rose.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have been all over that, and that was some good stuff there.
Yeah.
I mean, Rose
was cute.
Yeah,
I don't
she's
get
cute.
it.
She's a little quirky, no doubt about it.
So was he.
Right, exactly. So it would have worked out perfect. But yeah, I mean, you'll miss so many wasted opportunities. I mean, you should know when you're in the friend zone. Know when somebody's not really interested in you, okay?
Yeah.
And especially if they're like really, obviously,
see, that's
and it was somebody else. I mean, you could see right there. You could tell that Rick and Karen were an item. I mean, they're really into each other.
But Rick was into everybody, you know. That was if they were female and Rick was into that. Rick was not going to pass up or say no. And when there's the confrontation in the library,
but at the same time, though, it was obvious that she was not interested in Gary. She was all about f***ing Rick.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong there. I actually think this is the best movie that we watched for the month of love, number one. I'm going to throw that out right now because it does work as a comedy, but it also works as a very honest, very nuanced, very sincere teen drama.
Oh, absolutely.
And the characterizations of what a teenage guy in love, who thinks he's in love.
Yeah, absolutely. It nails in spades.
Yeah, the expectations of a relationship and how he thinks that romantic love is going to be and how that relationship is going to play out. It's all there. It is so genuine. It is so honest and heartfelt.
Yeah.
The other thing is that because he has this notion of who Karen is in his head, he winds up blowing up his best friendship over that one because, you know, he's basically trying to cock block Rick the entire time and get his way into Karen's good graces. And that's not going to happen. And in so doing, he created all this tension and weirdness with Rick. And while Rick could just be like, yeah, wave it off up until that point, once it hits that, once he tries to white knight his way into, you know, taking care of her and all that, it's done.
She's pregnant, you creep. So what? She's not the first. Yeah, but you were. Have you forgotten? Me? The first? Forget it, buddy. What are you trying to say? I'm saying that I'm probably not the only guy that ever screwed her. Take that back before I decide to bust your head wide open!
Unlike every other teen comedy that we have watched, this is the only one that actually felt like they talked to teenagers to write it, to actually make it. It was not like a weird school, you know, meeting or a weird school club or it's like shit that didn't exist. Everything that's in this film is something that every teenager is either going to be able to relate to or knows firsthand about. Number one,
Hang on. We just watched Better Off Dead.
Yes, we did.
Which, well, granted, Better Off Dead is...
It's quirky
and absurd.
Yes, it's absurdist comedy.
It's absurdist comedy, but it still nails the teen dynamic very well. Not like this.
No.
Not like this, but you know.
Why they call this a comedy, I get the funny haha moments of this film, but this actually is more of a drama than it is a comedy, and it's a very successful one. And I know that this was not well received when it came out because it was reviewed by adults that were like, "That's not what teenagers are like." As someone who was a teenager at the time, that's exactly what we were like.
Yeah. You also forgot too that we reviewed, while it's not a comedy, Foxes.
Yeah.
And Little Darlings too, which also nailed the subject matter very well as well.
This falls into the same category as Little Darlings, but from the male point of view. So ladies, if you want to know what it's like to be a teenage guy who's like looking to score for this kind of kills it. Yeah, because it gets the dynamics of the one guy who's just going along for the ride. He's the heavyset one. And then you have Rick who's you know, he's going to do whatever, say whatever, he's going to schmooze, he's going to lie, he's going to do this, whatever it takes for him to dip his wick. That's exactly what's coming out of his mouth. And then you have Gary who like blows it up to be like this big epic thing that, you know, a sort of rose petals and a white horse. That's the notion he has in his head. And the actual experience of him losing his virginity, that's powerful stuff. Because the prostitute, she is attractive, but she doesn't give two shits. It is a business transaction to her, and she is very blunt about the whole thing.
Come on, this is my busiest night. Come on, let's get those pants off. We haven't got all night.
You move like you don't want to get laid.
The fact that they were able to be that blunt about it. You know, I'm sorry, but you know what? You're not in a 5-star hotel and having a gorgeous model escort show up. No, $30 a piece?
Yeah.
No. For all of it. No. A piece.
Money, guys, or Ruby walks.
Well, how much you talking about?
$30 is the going rate.
30 bucks? That's 10 apiece.
It's $30 a piece, guys, and it ain't negotiable, see?
Jesus, that's 90 bucks.
Take it or leave it.
How about 75?
Well, how about 75? I mean, like, legitimately, all that is so beautifully done. I almost wish that we could take the one with the blonde, the Hispanic lady that is the nymphomaniac who lives alone. I wish we could kind of take that out or rewrite that, because it feels like it was written intentionally to be a comedy bit in this, and it was. Yeah. But compared to the beginning of this and compared to the end of this, it just feels kind of like we need to lighten the mood because this movie's getting too damn heavy. So
I don't know. I thought it was pretty well balanced.
I really dug this film. Yeah. I haven't seen this film in a very, very, very long time. But the other thing I want to talk about is this. This is how you do a damn soundtrack. This soundtrack is awesome.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's actually in my notes. Yeah. It's equally awesome and equally awful at the same time.
Yes. But that was the 80s.
Because I did my best, but my best just wasn't good enough.
I did my best, but I guess my best wasn't good enough.
That song. You, James Ingram. That song was a hit, though. Holy shit, that song was a hit. And also the Oh No song by the Commodores.
Yeah.
With Lionel Richie. Yeah, actually every song in this thing was a hit.
Yeah,
it was so good.
But they used that song like 4 times. And like the first time they do it, it's like, okay, yeah, nice record drop, nice needle drop moment on there. And then the second time is like, I did my best. It's like, okay, we get it. And then, like, when it pops up the third time, you're just kind of like,
yeah.
And then when it pops up the fourth time, it's kind of funny. There's definitely a drinking game to be had there. But the other thing, like,
but the good.
There was Blondie, The Cars, Devo, Journey, The Police, REO Speedwagon, Tommy Two-Tone, and more. The Last American Virgin.
They knew their audience and they marketed squarely at it. And they didn't try to make a movie so that they could sell a soundtrack. They just happened to make a movie and they decided, hey, you know what? Let's put the music in that people actually listen to. And they killed it.
Yes, they did.
They killed it. I have nothing but good things to say about this. This movie is not for everybody, but it is a good movie. There's no denying how good this movie is. And this is a movie that rewatches will make it better because you get to appreciate just how good the performances are in this.
They're stellar performances, and these, I mean, they had to have been legit teenage kids.
Oh, yeah.
Because they looked every bit of 16, 17, 18, maybe 19. I don't know how old they actually were.
Well,
but I'm sure every one of them was in that bracket.
I would have to assume that they were all 18. Because of the nudity and the amount of bare ass in this film. Yeah. But just barely. I mean, like.
But that's not necessarily true too, because Brooke Shields was nude in movies when she was very much underage.
That was the 70s. Brooke Shields, I think, was the end of that because some people were kind of like, hey, wait a minute, she's awful young. Because I think The Blue Lagoon came out in 80 or 81.
Yeah, but this is
82.
82.
This is a couple years later.
82. So it's not that far removed.
No, it's not. None of them looked like 20-year-olds trying to play teenagers. They all looked like teenagers.
Yeah.
So
unlike, a couple years laver, we have Teen Wolf, where everybody there is obviously in their fucking 20s.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, most definitely. But I'm gonna say, like, if you want to really know what it was like to grow up in the 80s, this movie will definitely nail that.
Yeah. Absolute recommend for me. I don't know can you buy this thing?
Yeah, there was a Blu-ray release of this.
I
may have to wind up purchasing this one. So I may have to get this one just because of the rewatchability of it. But I mean, like I said, it's a comedy film that's more of a drama than a comedy, and it works. It kind of, that ending is still just there's your teen romance right there. That's how high school relationships wind up. You're not going to run off together and get married and have a perfect idyllic life. Your ass is getting dumped at a birthday party that she invited you to. So, I don't know what else to say about this, but there's nothing but good things to say about this movie.
Yeah. No, we've been talking about for 26 minutes.
It deserves every one of those minutes. So, but like, this is how we're ending the month of love, and I'm okay with it because at the end of the day, it's the perfect close the door on teen romance films.
It is. It really is. Yeah, this isn't the saccharine fucking sweet shit. This is the real deal stuff.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it enough. Check it out. We hope you enjoyed the month of love. If you got, recommendations for next year, because we'll be doing it next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. It's going to keep happening, whether you like it or not.
As long as there's a February on the calendar, we will be here.
Yeah. So put your comments down there. Tell us what you think about this movie. And we see you guys. We love you. And see you next time. All right, quick and dirty, 1982's Last American Virgin.
He's Tony. I'm Tony. He's Mike. And today we wrap up the month of love with 1982's American Virgin.
The last.
I'm Tony.
Start over.